introduction or interview where you're going to be asked basic questions about familiar topics. This will last for about 4 to 5 minutes. The examiner might, for example, say, let's talk about accommodation, and then ask you a series of questions about this topic, including maybe what kind of accommodation do you live in? How long have you lived there? What do you like about living there? And what sort of accommodation would you most like to live in? Part 2 is known as the long term. You'll be given 1 minute to prepare, after which you will have to give a 1 or 2 minute talk on a topic chosen by the exam. The whole long term lasts about 3 to 4 minutes. Again, let's take a look at an example of a cue card you might be given. So, as you can see on your screen right now, describe a movie that you enjoyed watching. This is the main question, but you will also be given bullet points that you will need to cover in your talk. You should say what kind of movie it was, where you watched it, what it was about, and why you liked it so much. Part 3, or the final part of this speaking test, is going to be a discussion, where you're going to be asked abstract or general questions loosely related to the topic in Part 2. Again, let's look at some examples. The previous cue card in Part 2 that we looked at was about describing a movie that you enjoyed. So the questions in Part 3 will be about movies or cinema. So, for example, how have movies in your country changed since you were a child? Do you think film stars are good role models? Do you think people will start going to cinemas in the future? It's important to remember that these are abstract or general questions, so you need to be prepared to talk about the topic more generally than you did in Part 2. How is the speaking test assessed? Again, there are 4 assessment criteria. The first one is fluency and coherence. The second one is lexical resource. The third one is grammatical range and accuracy. And the fourth one is pronunciation. Again, there's a lot more information about the assessment criteria in our speaking self-study video, so again, please make sure you're going to be assessed on a scale of 1 to 9 in each of these criteria, and then your overall score is basically the average of all 4. This is a visual representation of the test format. So as you can see, it lasts for 2 hours and 44 minutes. And if you're doing the IELTS on paper, you'll get an additional 10 minutes of transfer time when you do the listening test. Now, a question a lot of test takers ask before they actually appear for the IELTS test is whether they should take it on paper or on computer. Now, before I help you answer this question, I think there are a few key points that you need to keep in mind. The first is that there's absolutely no difference in the content of the tests. There's no difference in the value of the results. In fact, the mode of delivery, or by which I mean whether you took the test on paper or on computer, is not mentioned on the test report. And test takers can choose between modes of delivery where both are available. In terms of the IELTS and computer, there's no special computer skills required, but it helps to be confident using the keyboard. It's also helpful to be aware of basic shortcut functions. For example, Control-C for copy, Control-V for paste, and Control-X for cut. It will be conducted on a computer at an official IELTS test center, and it cannot be taken at home and or on the test taker's own computer. And the keyboard that's going to be used at the test centers is going to be the default QWERTY format. The speaking test remains the same, 1-to-1, face-to-face. Let's look at some differences in terms of each of the sections of the test. In terms of the listening, when you do it on paper, as I mentioned before, the audio will last for 30 minutes, and then you'll get 10 minutes to transfer your answers onto the answer sheet. So while you're listening, you can answer on the question paper, and then once the audio recordings are done, you'll be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers. You can make notes on your test paper, and some centers use headphones while others use speakers. In the IELTS and computer, on the other hand, the recordings will again last for 30 minutes, but the answers are going to be typed directly onto the screen, and then they can be checked and changed at any time, and you'll be given 2 minutes at the end of the test for further changes. You'll be given scrap paper to make notes, but you can also write ideas in the answer boxes and then change them. All of the centers in the IELTS and computer use headphones. This is an example of what it's going to look like when you do the IELTS and computer in terms of the listening test. So as you can see, there's a clock at the top of the page, and in this case, you're being asked to label, and you will drag the options to the correct box. In terms of the reading on paper, the clock is going to be visible in the room, and the TDS or test day supervisor will announce the time at specific intervals. When you have 40 minutes left, when you have 20 minutes left, 10 minutes left, and 5 minutes before the end of the test. Again, you'll be given a test booklet and a separate answer sheet, and the text can be marked up, circled, underlined, etc. In terms of the Ielts computer, the clock will be visible on the computer screen and will flash red 10 minutes and 5 minutes before the end of the test. The text, you can see the text on the left-hand side of the screen, and the questions and answer boxes on the right-hand side of the screen. I'll show you what this looks like in a second. The text can be marked up just like the Ielts on paper, but differently. You can highlight and make notes. This is what it looks like. Again, you'll see the time, the clock at the top of your screen. The text is on the left-hand side, and the questions are on the right-hand side. You will be able to highlight sentences, as you can see on your screen right now, and you can also add notes. In terms of the writing, on paper, again, you'll be given a test booklet and 2 answer sheets for each of the tasks. You will have to count or estimate the words that you write, and you can erase or cut out and rewrite. In terms of the Ielts computer, the questions are going to be up on the screen, and the answers will be typed directly onto the screen as well. In the Ielts computer, there's an automatic word count, which will be displayed on the screen. And if you want to change something, you can just delete and rewrite. Again, let me show you what this looks like. This is an example of an Ielts writing part 2, or task 2. As you can see, the question is on the left-hand side, and the box in which you will type your answers on the right-hand side, and you will also see the word count. You can see the word count at the bottom. So, should you take the Ielts on paper or on computer? As we discussed, the content of the tests are exactly the same. So, the choice is based completely on your personal preference and convenience. The Ielts on computer was developed as a way to give test takers access to more locations, more frequent test availability, quicker test results because you get the results back in 3 to 5 days, and the opportunity to register closer to your test. Let's finally look at some testing information. You'll be provided with pencil, eraser, and eraser when you go to the test center. You may be able to bring your own pen, pencil, or eraser as long as they're unlabeled, but it's best to check with your local test center. Remember, you cannot take your mobile phone and or watch inside the test room. There will be secure space to store your personal belongings at the test center. You're only allowed to have a pencil, pen, your ID, and an eraser on the desk. You cannot bring food or drink into the test room, with the exception of water in a transparent bottle. Very important to remember, there's no breaks during the exam or the test. And if you need to use the toilet during the test, put your hand up to attract the vigilator's attention and don't disturb other test takers. You will not be given additional. Let's finally finish off with some Ielts preparation support in terms of some resources that you can use. One of the most useful resources is the takeielts.org website. It has a range of support materials, including detailed information about the test format and pre-practice tests. You will also have access to free on-computer familiarization tests, which will give you the opportunity to see what it feels like to do the test on computer. We would also recommend that you follow our Take Ielts official Facebook page. You can post whatever questions you want on there, and one of our experts will be more than happy to answer it for you. We also have live sessions where you can interact with our experts and ask them questions directly. The schedule is up on this page. In terms of online preparation, we would recommend Road to Ielts. It was developed in conjunction with the British Council, and it has downloadable practice tests, interactive activities, hints, and tips on question types. Another amazing resource is the Ielts Prep app that you can download directly onto your mobile phone. It's available both on the Google Play Store as well as the Apple Store. It'll give you instant access to pre-practice tests, grammar tips, exercises, and quizzes. And also, exclusive access to 4 extra complete IELTS practice tests with model answers that are not available anywhere else. You'll have to pay a nominal fee for these 4 tests, but like I said, they're exclusive to the app. There's a whole range of books and study guides available, anything printed by the Cambridge University Press, but especially the official Cambridge IELTS test series, a compilation of authentic tests that have been used in the past, so the best way to practice. And for general English, we would highly recommend learnenglish.britishconsole.org. And that brings us to the end of this introduction to IELTS video. I hope that you found it useful. Please make sure you check out our other videos, including the one on including when the one has more information on the IELTS on computer, and our self-study skill videos. Like I said, please make sure you check those out, and good luck preparing for the IELTS test.